morning, Bucknutters. Happy Labor Day. Welcome into the Bucknuts Morning 5. I am Dave Biddle. Very happy to be joined by Steve Helwagen. Steve, I almost still can't believe Ohio State put up 77 points and a school record 776 yards of total offense against Bowling Green on Saturday. I mean, other than J.T. Barrett's pick six on Ohio State's first drive, it was a near-perfect performance from the Buckeyes.
Yeah, Dave, I've been covering the team continuously since about 1990, full-time 1995. It's obviously the most points, I think, all the way back to the 1950s, maybe the 80-some point game that they had against Iowa back there in the 1950s. I mean, that alone, I mean, it's the most points scored in my lifetime, and I'm 48 years old. So, yeah, I mean, it was a milestone thing. The most important thing, as far as I'm concerned, is that they got dozens and dozens of people who've never played into this game and got a taste of what it's like. You're telling me a guy like KJ Hill catches the first touchdown of the season. You're telling me DeMario McCall, who some people didn't even know he was going to play, has 2 touchdowns. Rajay Burns, who nobody knew if he was going to play, had an interception return for a touchdown, and so on and so on and so on. Joe Burrow, I mean, gets in the game, which, I mean, you fully expected him to play because he's already redshirted. 6 of 8 passing. I mean, it could not have gone any better for Urban Meyer and the coaching staff because it gave all those young guys a taste of what it's like to play, and in many cases, a taste of what it's like to succeed. And now they can just come into practice and build on that and build on that and build that fever going forward. And they know now Oklahoma's vulnerable. So obviously playing Tulsa this week and then building into Oklahoma the following week, this thing is like a locomotive right now going down the tracks, and it's only gaining steam, it seems like.
Obviously, the only bad thing about the game, other than J.T. Barrett's pick six, but the only really bad thing to come out of the game is Tracy Sprinkle's injury. That's a really bad thing. He's out for the year with a torn patellar tendon. You can just see it, you know, in his face. He knew he was done, and they finally announced it. Urban announced it after the game. My question for you, Steve, impact of Tracy Sprinkle's loss. Obviously, Draymond Jones is not going to step up as the starter, but just they already were so young there. Mike Hill and Tracy Sprinkle are the only really veterans they have there. The rest of the guys are redshirt freshmen or true freshmen as far as the defensive tackles. They can move some, you know, defensive ends, inside on passing downs like Nick Bosa and some of the other guys, but just the impact from your perspective of the loss of Tracy Sprinkle.
Well, it's terrible. I mean, this is a guy, as we talked to players last week, I think Raekwon McMillan said that Tracy Sprinkle was one of the spiritual leaders of the defense. He's not a captain,
yes,
but he is a guy who, and you can tell, he's got that great personality, always smiling, always lifting people up, always talking, and this just cuts you right to the bone. I mean, when he went down, you saw everybody on the defense flocked around him, you know, giving him the moral support. And it is a terrible loss for this team because when you play a physical team later on, whoever it may be, Michigan State, you know, Michigan, if they're going to play a physical style at some point, you know, it hurts. And I think that you did hit the nail on the head. We're going to have guys, it appears, who've never really played now in those interior spots. Draymond Jones, Ja'Shawn Cornell, Hamilton, Devon Hamilton, he played a pretty good game. He had half a sack. Robert Landers was in there. Those 4 guys in particular now are all in the rotation, and they all have to play well. And I think we're going to talk to Larry Johnson later today, and I'm sure he's going to, you know, tell us, you know, hey, it's the next guy up, and that's just the way it is. They can't afford any more injuries on the defensive line. I did note that in third and long situations, they took Michael Hill out and they took Tracy Sprinkle out rather, and put Jalen Holmes in the rushman thing there, defensive tackle. And so, you know, that was one wrinkle that they were already using, but I want to see, you know, how they're going to overcome this, no question.
Yeah, it's a tough loss on a couple different aspects, as you mentioned, just, the personal aspect with Tracy Sprinkle, as far as he's come, was kicked off the team briefly in July of 2014 and got the charges reduced, was let back on the team, and then 2 years later, he's a leader, he's a starter, and then goes down the first game of the season. Just hate to see that. But his career's not over. He'll be back next year as a fifth-year senior. Maybe he'll get another year and plays a sixth-year senior, so tough blow, though, for the Buckeyes as far as, losing Tracy Sprinkle, just feel bad for him. And then I think it's going to hurt the team on the field. I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat it with as young as they are, even though I'm high on a lot of those redshirt freshmen that you mentioned, Devon Hamilton, Draymond Jones. I like both those guys a lot. Robert Landers is a guy I was high on when he came in. And I thought he had one really good play against Bowling Green. Maybe he's the guy that can turn it on. Jayshon Cornell, as you mentioned, but I just don't think there's any way to sugarcoat it. I think this is a big loss for the Buckeyes. They cannot withstand any more injuries up front as far as their defensive tackles. Okay, before I let you go, Steve, let's talk about, you alluded to this already, but a total of 10 true freshmen play. We all wondered how many true freshmen are going to play this year. On signing day, Urban Meyer was like, I want 18 true freshmen to play, and then he even joked about it when camp started. We asked him, is that still the goal? He said, yeah, but it's not going to happen. But, yeah, that's still the goal, 18. So, I thought maybe 12 would play. And I think it's safe to say if you didn't play in this game, unless you're hurt, you're not playing. You're redshirting if you're a true freshman. You didn't play in the 77-10 game. But let's go alphabetical order and tell the listeners the 10 true freshmen who played. Of course, Nick Bosa got his first sack, then finally did the shrug. He almost forgot to do the shrug. Rajay Burns, as Steve mentioned, had the pick six. People on our board were getting on him, Steve, said he was slow. I watched the replay. He just was slowing down at the end because he didn't think anybody was going to catch him. Bowling Green has been throwing the ball a lot. He's probably gassed anyway, so people giving Rajay Burns a hard time saying he's slow. He's not slow. He just slowed up. Jonathan Cooper played. Jordan Fuller played, and I think he's going to have a big role as the season goes on as a backup safety. Malik Harrison got in there. Keandre Jones got in there, made a couple tackles. Michael Jordan, of course, started. First starter on the offensive line in the first game since Orlando Pace in 1994. Austin Mack played. Demario McCall, we'll get to him in a little bit. You mentioned him already. He played. And then Jack Wallaball, it was listed that he played. I did not see him out there. Sometimes the game report is not accurate. I thought they were going to try and redshirt Jack Wallaball, but perhaps he was out there and this report is accurate. But assuming that that's accurate, those are the 10 that played. Let's start with Demario McCall. He was a guy, he shows a lot of wiggle out there, Steve. Extremely quick. I mean, this kid looks like a keeper. He could be a future star.
I agree. I think that there were a lot of people excited about what he brought to the table after seeing him on Saturday. And the thing is, he was a U.S. Army All-American. He was, I think, a 2,000-yard rusher as a junior at North Ridgeville, and then I think he was hurt most of his senior year and did not put up those kind of numbers. And I think people wondered about, what was up with him. But he came right in and whether he caught a tired Bowling Green defense by surprise or what, 36-yard touchdown catch, 16-yard run. He was getting around the corner and, he's got some positive things to build on. No question about it. Great showing for him.
And any other surprises? Were you surprised Wallaball played, assuming that he did? Were you surprised maybe Ben Victor didn't get in? Just any surprises as far as the true freshmen who played or did not play?
Wow, that is a good one. Malik Harrison, I thought he would redshirt for sure. I assumed Burns would redshirt. Nick Bosa to get his first sack. There was already a lot of clamor. I do Facebook Live myself on Fridays, and every other question is, Nick Bosa going to start? Is Nick Bosa going to start? He's the one guy that the casual fans know all about. And, he had a sack in the first game. Now, granted, it was, later in the game, but that's going to work well for him. He's in the rotation, so, whether he's going to start this week or not, I tend to doubt, but he is definitely in the plan, no question about it.
Great stuff as always out of Steve Helwagen. Thank you for the wisdom, Steve. As Steve mentioned, busy day for us here. We're not taking Labor Day off, not even close. Urban Meyer will talk to the media today, 11:45 a.m., so make sure you keep it locked to Bucknuts for that. We will have a video and bolts on what Coach Meyer has to say. And then after that, as Steve mentioned, we're going to get a chance to talk to J.T. Barrett. We're going to get a chance to talk to Larry Johnson and a few other players, kicker Tyler Durbin, H-back Dontre Wilson, corner Garyon Conley, and safety Malik Hooker. So we're going to interview those guys between 12:15 and 2 p.m. today, so keep it locked to Bucknuts for all of that. Thanks again to Steve Helwagen, and thanks to everybody out there for listening to the show. Hope you have a great Labor Day. Let's hear some Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.